Evening. In the past half hour, France's credit rating has been officially downgraded by the agency Standard & Poor's. President Sarkozy is reported to have held crisis talks with key ministers tonight. 8 other Eurozone countries have also been downgraded. And S&P says it acted primarily because of the inaction of European leaders to address the crisis. It also comes as talks aimed at easing Greece's massive debt problem have stalled, threatening the very survival of the euro. We're here to make sense of all the details so far. Economics editor Ed Conway. And Ed, these ratings have been coming thick and fast. Lots of A's and B minuses even.
That's right, so worth just confirming where we are because we've been talking about this all day. And it's largely as expected, downgraded by 1 notch, in other words, down 1 grade. Austria and France, both of them lose their AAA rating. In France's case, that was one of the longest held AAA ratings in the Eurozone. Malta, Slovakia, Slovenia, downgraded by 2 notches, so it's more significant downgrades for Cyprus, Italy, Portugal and Spain. But it's really that France story that everyone's focusing on. And on top of everything else, they also face what's known in ratings agencies as negative outlook, which means that there could potentially be a downgrade in the future. However, the French Finance Minister, François Baron, when he spoke about this just earlier on tonight, he was downplaying the severity and saying that France would actually take measures to sort it out.
It means that we have to continue with the reforms, amplify them. It is what the President and the Prime Minister are seeking, and they will meet their social partners next week. There will be tough discussions with regards to supporting growth and competition. We need to be bold, but we have one weakness, that is the cost of labour.
May well be sanguine, but of course it is these politicians that S&P is blaming, saying that they've actually downgraded because primarily insufficient policy measures by European leaders to actually fully address the systemic stresses.
That's right, and it's an indictment both because they're talking about their failure to sort things out, and I think also the fact that you have some countries out there which haven't been downgraded, which makes the ones that have look rather worse in
Germany,
comparison.
of course. Germany,
AAA rating, it keeps it. The Netherlands as well, Finland and Luxembourg too, and there are others with their kind of lower ratings, in particular Ireland. Ireland, which has a BBB+ rating, the same as what Italy has now, retains that rating, and so it doesn't go down by as much as feared.
Now, why are these ratings so important? What does it do for the governments and the international markets?
Well, I mean, the first concern, the most immediate concern, is that it affects your borrowing costs. A government needs to borrow in order to kind of keep its finances going. A rating basically says to investors, this country is more likely to default in the future, therefore don't necessarily go out and buy its debt as much. The second kind of order concern is that there is this European bailout fund called the EFSF, which is supposed to try and cement the rest of the currency. That is reliant, it kind of piggybacks on the other ratings.
So it's effectively downgraded with the individual countries?
My suspicion is that that's likely to be downgraded on Monday because these second-order downgrades come after that.
Is this the moment the crisis really breaks? I mean, we've had a bit of a phony war, if you like, so far, because the other issue is Greece, with these talks with the private investors breaking down. This is where it all started with Greece. I mean, is this the moment it really starts to fracture?
That's right, and as well, it's worth pointing out that the last few weeks have been relatively sanguine.
Yeah.
You know, markets have been improving. The debt markets in particular, all of the Eurozone members have been able to issue debt. And now you have this issue coming along with Greece, which could be even more significant than this ratings downgrade. Although it doesn't have that necessary wow factor, what it means is that Greece is struggling to negotiate with its investors over reducing their debt, which in turn means you might have a serious default, the kind of thing that happened to Lehman Brothers back in 2008 and then triggered all of the trouble around the world. And so it's that combination of factors that commentators today have been saying is the real worry.
These two stories, putting them together, what they really confirm is that the Eurozone has not yet come up with a credible solution to the crisis that has developed over the last 2 years. So either they'll have to take a bigger leap forward towards fiscal consolidation, or we are potentially going to see a breakup of the euro in the next year to 18 months.
And where does it leave Britain? Markets in London closed before this happened, although obviously the rumours were starting to swirl around.
Ironically enough, actually, it's been relatively good for UK borrowing costs. The government in the UK can now borrow at below 2%. That's rarely ever happened. In fact, that's near to the lowest level in more than a century. So, in fact, so far it's good for the UK, but the French, you can guarantee, will say that the UK needs to be downgraded now.
Yes, yeah, as they have said already, of course. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Peter Spencer, in Westminster. Peter, we're just getting another drop from S&P saying the Eurozone summit, December 9th, not producing a significant breakthrough to address the region's financial problems. And, of course, remember David Cameron there and the handshake that never was with Nicolas Sarkozy.
Absolutely right. I mean, sort of up to a point, David Cameron has been standing on the sidelines just sort of staring in amazement at how badly things have been going. And of course, you're quite right, that last summit did not achieve the breakthrough that was needed, which is why there's of course another one coming up in a couple of weeks' time or thereabouts. Meantime, the Downing Street response is we don't talk about other people's credit ratings. Of course, it would be very tempting to reignite that Anglo-French diplomatic spat, especially with the head of the French bank saying, well, actually Britain should be downgraded before France. Well, now France has copped it. But I think this is simply too serious. Although the Downing Street are not saying anything officially, the government will be watching this with extreme care, and I would imagine some trepidation realistically, because you were speaking a little while ago about the possibility of what's happening now making this crisis turn into something slightly closer to catastrophe. So the implications for the British economy are considerable. Remember that David Cameron has talked about the potentially chilling effect of a Eurozone meltdown. Well, are we one step closer towards it? They will be watching with very, very keen interest. As far as Britain's perhaps slightly narrower interest is concerned, the fact that Britain's credit rating is as good as it is, the coalition is firmly convinced, is down to the fact that they instituted the cuts program that they did, however unpopular it was. They sort of, without saying it, what they're thinking is, well, thank heaven we did it, because otherwise we could be in the same difficulty.
Yep. Stiff upper lip for the moment. Peter, thank you for that. What have the markets been making of all this? Of course, just to reiterate, London particularly closing before official word came through, but they have been taking a dive today. You can see that the